Immediate embarkation aboard ships whose purpose and power far outstrip our imagination. From the ice of Quebec to the stifling heat of a Korean shipyard, by way of the fury of the seas of Brittany, you will discover the daily lives of these exceptional sailors. The men and the women we met aboard these extraordinary machines showed us that they are prepared to go to any lengths in their battle with the elements. Our voyage begins in South Korea on the island of Koje. The whole city revolves around Samsung Industry, one of the largest shipyards in the world. After crossing several oceans, the blue Marlin has finally arrived in the city's harbour. The yard's managers have brought it here from the other side of the world for a very special operation. This shipyard is a city within the city. Each morning, 30,000 workers arrive in this giant factory, where they build 80 ships a year, more than one freighter per week. This is the realm of superlatives. There's a long week ahead for Yuri Ivanov, the superintendent of the Blue Marlin. Yuri lives in Lithuania. He's come especially to Korea to supervise the operations which are in preparation. Yuri knows everything about the Blue Marlin. He was its captain for 15 years.
For the moment, Blue Marlin is the largest in the world. It has a beam of 65 meters, length 216 meters, and no other vessel can do this job for now. And we did the same project a year ago, similar to that, sister ship, rig, and it worked perfectly. And I think this year it will be also same way. I'm ready to go. Good morning, Mr. P. Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to see you. Glad to see you.
Yeah.
How are you?
Fine.
Good, good, good.
Okay.
Let's go to work. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Ready?
Yeah.
Here's the Blue Marlin again, this incredible ship. On the quay next to it is its cargo. The West Eminence is an oil rig built by the Korean workers of the yard. And it's the Blue Marlin that must put the rig into the water for the first time. The Blue Marlin is the biggest submersible ship in the world, capable of carrying all sorts of cargo across any ocean. To load and unload a cargo by sliding it onto the rear deck, the Blue Marlin simply needs to sink deeper into the water by means of a simple ballast system using seawater, which fills or empties according to the weight of the cargo. Meanwhile, at Cape Brittany, another adventure is beginning. It's often said that at the origin of every adventure, there's a story of childhood.
My father wanted me to pursue higher studies, in particular business studies, but I didn't want to. I wanted to be a sailor. So when I was 17, he found out that I wanted to be a sailor, and I ran away from home and left a note on my pillow saying that I was leaving, that I wanted to be a sailor and that I was sailing on a Maltese cargo ship.
Charles Cladden, one of the most respected sailors in Brittany, tells us the story of his life.
My father didn't get excited and said quite sensibly, okay, I realize that you want to be a sailor, if you like it, and that's really what you want to do. So I said, yeah, Dad. You can see there's no question of me going back to school. I want to go to sea right now. He said, listen, I'll make a deal with you. I'll agree, but in that case, I want you to become a captain.
And captain is what Carlos became. And not just any captain, because he now commands the crew of an ocean tug, the most powerful on the French coast. It's the month of February, and it's 6 in the morning. A violent storm is heading towards Cape Brittany. The Abbé Bourbon, the Bourbon Bee, puts to sea. On the bridge, concentration is intense. They're listening for the slightest radio signal.
Okay, looks like we're out of trouble. With the wind change, we can probably make it. The wind has turned northwest. We've got 42 knots, gusting to 54, and it's forecast to rise. So we're going to have to 70 to 75 miles an hour winds, right? Actually, our job is to intervene between the incident, what may be an incident, and the accident itself. The accident is a ship that has structural damage, for example, for something like that. We'll try to take it somewhere and we see how we can limit the consequences of the accident. There we've just heard, okay, there are still people out, so that's why the maritime authorities keep us on weather watch out here on Ushant.
The storm is hitting Brittany, but the weather appears milder in Quebec. During the intense cold of winter, the St. Lawrence, one of the longest rivers in the world, is hostile territory. But not for everyone. Certain people look on it as one vast playground. In her house on the riverbank, Lynn White is going through the morning ritual. With all the snow that fell during the night, and in view of the falling temperatures, this captain of the Three Rivers Coast Guard knows she could be in for a busy day. Her bosun Piero is already on the road towards the city harbour, where a big package is waiting for him. Perched aboard a freighter, this strange machine has arrived straight from England, where it was built. Custom made for the Canadian Coast Guard.
It's not a boat. We're sailors, but it's not a boat. It's a sort of hybrid between a plane and a boat. Makes a lot of noise, but it does an extraordinary job. We're going to fit her out to her own taste. We're going to modify her so that she'll be pleasant to work with, so she'll be kind to us, because she'll take on a personality. This machine here is going to turn into a character.
Oh, it's impressive. Somebody said was built in England, and it cost $17 million. The giant metal insect takes its first steps on the ice of the St. Lawrence. It's a vehicle riding on cushions of air that can sail at over 50 knots. There are less than a dozen of them in the world. A little later, on the Three Rivers base, Piero has joined his crew on the old Wabanaki. While he supervises maneuvering, Lynn White is at the helm.
voyage. Avec Quebec, natural form,
Piloting such a machine is far from easy. It's a bit like driving a car flat out on a skating rink. As it glides along, the Wabanaki creates a wave, and this wave will deform and then break the layer of ice.
We try to push the wave laterally so as to increase the width of the ice field that we can break. If the ice is a little flexible, it breaks. So independently of the size of the wave that we can create, the amount of ice we can break with the wave depends upon the thickness.
During the summer months, the hovercraft specialize in rescue work because they can move over very shallow water. During the winter, their main mission is to break the ice off the banks of the St. Lawrence so that it can be carried out to the ocean by the current.
The hovercraft belonging to the Coast Guard have all been given Indian names. You have Wapanaki, which means the people of the rising sun, as I was saying. You have the Superwin, which means river bear, and you're going to see the Mamilosa, which means that which passes from the water to the bank, or the other way around. We'll have to check.
The magical thing about this machine is that it has no draft. So we go into places that even a tiny launch can't go. I had a good friend in Tadoussac who came along with us, who said, I was raised here and I'm seeing places that I've never seen before because you couldn't get here. It was too dangerous with the tides.
We leave the white icy world of Quebec for the humid heat of Korea, where the blue marlin awaits us. The loading of the rig has been in preparation for weeks. There's no room for approximation in this sort of job. The only thing that hasn't been planned is the weather. Any delay in delivery costs a great deal. Millions of dollars are at stake. The imperturbable Mr. Kim supervises his workers' task.
Now heavy rain, but we are now working, so we have to keep the schedule to do a better schedule and our client primers. That's very important. Yeah.
At a brisk pace, the workers set up the 300 steel cables that would drag the rig onto the boat, sliding it slowly from the dock where it was built towards the deck of the Blue Marlin. The loading will take 2 days. Mark, the Englishman who supervised the building of the West Eminence, is inspecting the rig from top to bottom.
Everything is okay, Mark?
So far, so good. We're looking for any loose items that may fall to the team that are performing the loadout operation below us. Some of the components on board the vessel can take up to 20 months to fabricate and supply. So at this late stage in the project, we don't want to damage anything either.
You can never be too careful when you have to put 30,000 tons of steel into the water, especially when it represents $520 million, price of the rig.
Well, the West Eminence rig is sitting on the ground at the edge of the quayside. You can see below us the heavy lift vessel Blue Marlin alongside the quay. We have constructed rails out across her deck, and tomorrow morning, beginning early, we will begin to pull with the hydraulic cylinders and the wire ropes you see laying on deck, and slowly drag, stroke by stroke, West Eminence across the edge of the quayside and onto the deck of the Blue Marlin. Blue Marlin is unique in the world. She has capability that nobody else can match, and she's pretty much the only vessel that would be suitable for our loadout.
The inspection hasn't revealed any problems. The Korean workers can now begin the loading onto the ship. The 30,000 tons of steel is going to start to move. The 300 cables are attached to enormous hydraulic jacks. The success of the maneuver depends on the first minutes of traction. It's the moment of truth for Mark and Yuri.
I think maybe line holding again.
Is the platform moving?
Just moved 50 millimeters both sides. Both sides. We apply tension of 90 millimeters.
Good news.
Good, very good news, yeah. It's all fine.
As the rig advances, the ship becomes heavier, so it has to be lightened by an equivalent weight. Yuri is keeping his eye on the tide, a height that the ship must constantly compensate for by emptying or filling its water ballast tanks.
Tide amplitude is 2.5 meters. But for this loading operation, we have to be in level because we skid on. All the time we have to be in level. So we need to compensate, and we compensate position of the vessel level by ballasting the ship. Here is we installed the measure ruler, how we control manually, because whatever prediction is, it's just prediction. We measure it every 10 minutes to be accurate, not to miss tide.
The rig advances at 6 meters an hour. The maneuver will take the best part of the day. Over on the coast of Brittany, the storm is still raging. It's impossible for the crew of the Abbé Bourbon to remain at anchor on the Ushant coast because the wind has turned. They can't risk being driven onto the cliffs. The Abbé has to remain operational in case of an emergency call.
Why is this a dangerous place? Because we have winds that are coming from the northwest, from the west onto Rouen. And we can see that these winds will drive the ships towards the coast, whatever the direction. That's why it's so dangerous. Plus, there's the effect of the current, a very strong current. So when we have winds against the current, we can get into a big increase in the size of the waves here.
Carlos talks about waves, but they look more like mountains. Charles Cladden and his crew have no need to prove their courage. For years now, they have been braving tempestuous seas to go to the aid of ships in distress. Jean-Romain, the ship's second officer, and Carlos's right-hand man, is one of the youngest recruits, but he's already experienced some memorable salvage operations. Well, when we get there, the aim is to go to the front of the ship with the crew members who've been made available to help us, to pass the tow line as best we can. And with the crew of a ship in distress, I think, well, I get the impression that when they see us coming, they see our arrival as a sort of rescue, because they're so distraught. Sometimes they've been already drifting for several hours in bad weather. They have no means of controlling their ship. They're rolling from side to side. Well, that's exhausting. So they don't necessarily have very high morale. I think that when they see us arrive, it's a bit of a relief, because they say to themselves, at last, they've come to fetch us. They've come to pick us up and take care of us.
The advantage we have is that we're immediately thrust right into action, into operation. But sometimes there could be dead periods. I think of when we did the Voyage Sun. The same thing, I was recalled, and well, the Voyage Sun is a ship loaded with chemical products. And the chemists that we consult at the crisis center with the maritime authorities say, be careful. 3 chemists tell us there may be a risk of explosion if the boat runs aground. I start thinking and thinking and thinking, and I tell myself, if I go like this, I've had it. And then I remembered a thing that my grandfather used to say. He used to say, if you're scared, it was a thing for kids. You have to learn to walk over your fear. And quite stupidly, like in a hospital, I practically got into a catatonic state. And I got up and I started walking. I kept repeating with this image in my mind, walk over my fear. Walk over my fear.
During the intervention on the open sea, there's also the attraction of the financial premium for the salvage of a freighter or a container ship. But what really drives these extraordinary seamen is a sense of solidarity amongst sailors. Back on the St. Lawrence in Canada, where the nights are very long. We're well into spring, but the layer of ice is still up to 80 centimeters thick in places. The Martha Black sails up and down this part of the river between Three Rivers and Montreal. This icebreaker from the Canadian Coast Guard and her 50 crew members have just spent the winter opening the navigable channel and escorting freighters.
The danger is that a piece of winter ice might break off and drift into the channel. That would be the sort of problem we might face, given that the days are getting warmer and warmer, and they're forecasting rain for tomorrow. There's a risk that the water level will rise, that it will cause cracks in the ice over the coming days, especially as they forecast winds of around 20 knots. It looks as if we're going to be pretty busy in the coming few days.
The Martha Black is underway. At this time of the year, like most of the Canadian icebreakers, it's part of the team clearing the river of ice. At no time can the ship move out of the channel because of its draft. It's 9 in the morning, and a woman leaves her little cabin on the captain's orders. Mireille Sampson is the first and only woman helicopter pilot in the Canadian Coast Guard.
Well, there's a lot of ice breaking away from the lake, and they're worried it will block up at the bridge. So that's why we're going to take a look over on Lake Saint-Pierre to see if it's moving well. If it's moving well in a navigable channel.
When she sets out on a reconnaissance mission, Mireille is always accompanied by an ice observer, Lucy. Twice a day, they fly over the critical zones of the St. Lawrence. The helicopter is the first link in the ice-clearing chain. The two women can read the state of the ice from its color. They scan the cracks, and most important, they alert the authorities whenever they see a sheet of ice adrift. Mireille is in constant contact with the Ice Bureau situated on the shores of Quebec City. Although covered in ice from December to April, the St. Lawrence remains accessible all year round. 20,000 shipping movements are recorded there. These men are for the most part former captains of icebreakers. They control all the sea and river traffic in Quebec.
I suggest a possible change in the route there, to take the route a little further to the north. What we're interested in is the circulation. The ice has to move. It has to move with the current. That means right now to make sure that the ice circulates freely in the channel, because if the ice stops, then it forms a sort of barrage, and the water level rises, and then we can get floods along the riverbanks of the towns, etc., etc. That's the critical thing in this particular sector.
On the other side of the planet, they're busy aboard Blue Marlin. The ship will cast off in a few hours. Yuri has just been called because there's a problem with the mooring on the West Eminence. Workers have been busy all night attaching the rig to the ship. It's placed on simple wooden wedges, but the work does not meet Mark and Yuri's approval.
Yes. This block supports the rig from the vertical motion when vessel is at sea. Yeah? And also it doesn't let this rig go off her position longitudinally.
It all has to be done again.
It's a 1-minute job in 4 locations. If you want to change the plan, you need to come back and discuss. Don't just change your mind and don't inform us.
No less than 5 tugs have been drafted in to maneuver the exit from the port of Kojé. With its cargo, the Blue Marlin is nearly 90 meters wide. For Captain Vladimir, this is not a simple maneuver. Between the quays and the freighters, the pilot and the Blue Marlin's captain need to steer a straight course.
It's not as usual as we are doing. Steering bow ahead, you know, but nothing we can do because there is not this space here to swing around, to turn around the vessel. So with such cargo. I never think about the cost of the platform, but it's really huge, and cost of ship and cost of, first of all, cost of lives on board. We have about 50 people now on board, so this is my first concern. Second, the safety of the ship and safety of the cargo as well.
To launch the rig, the captain has chosen a sheltered deep water bay not far from Kojé. ballasting operations to submerge the ship have begun. But Yuri has some concerns.
There is coming some swell in, so we're a little bit worried with captain. We will watch whole night weather conditions.
All through the night, the Blue Marlin will gently sink down. The deck of the ship is now 9 meters below the surface of the sea. Back at Brest, a moment of calm. Behind the salvage of these ships lies a whole organization. We're heading for one of the French Navy's most secret locations. We thread our way along a maze of corridors in the company of Captain Yves Postek. After several minutes' walk, we enter the nerve center for salvage operations in France. Here, they don't conceal their admiration for the crew of the Abbé Bourbon. These are quite exceptional sailors, hardened, courageous, because after all they face extremely hostile weather conditions, and they're under the command of a captain who has a very rare knowledge of salvage operations. His captain is the COM. The captain of a ship wants to delay taking a tow till the last possible minute because he knows it's going to cost him money. He will be accountable for it to his owner. And it's precisely for that reason that the maritime prefect has the power to act. He can order the captain of a ship to take a tow because his ship constitutes a danger for our coasts, an immediate danger. The wind's going to keep up all night. We'll see tomorrow where we position you.
No problem. All right, okay, thanks. Goodbye.
The Ushant Fairway, the Abbé Bourbon's territory, is a veritable maritime highway. 150 vessels pass through every day, and they're not little ones. Container ships, tankers, or chemical carriers. You have to be absolutely ready in case of an alert, so they practice whatever the weather conditions.
The goal is to be prepared when required. Okay, we prefer it if nothing happens like everybody else. But it's obvious that the fact that we practice, well, in the end, when we find ourselves in conditions that can sometimes be quite exceptional, which has already happened, it allows you to get rid of a large part of the stress because you fall back on professional practices. The sea is always stronger. You must always keep that in mind. This means that we know, for example, how to smash the boat in half an hour. That's certain. So from the time we're going to intervene, the aim is always to find the limit, the acceptable risk, so as not to lose time on the operation, to do things while at the same time avoiding sustaining any damage to ourselves that might compromise the operation as a whole.
Find the limit. Walk over your fear and react quickly, very quickly. The salvagers on the Abbé Bourbon know that each scenario is different, and that at the end of the tow line, a number of lives are at stake. Well, it's a moment when you're very, very close to the ship in distress. You may be a dozen or 15 yards from its bulb. Well, it's not easy to aim either, because there's the wind, the ship's moving around. Sometimes the ship in distress is very high compared to us. So all that makes aiming the rocket more difficult. While some crew are busy on the rear deck, other crew are on alert in the machine room. We're down in the hold, the bowels of the tug, and the success of a salvage operation depends not only on the experience of the captain, but also on the power of his engines. The engineers know that they cannot afford to make an error.
Okay, bridge, the engines are ready. You can see the two screws that are used to drive us, but also to maneuver while towing, and above all, something you don't have on other ships, the two rear thrusters here, two bow thrusters, which are actually used to hold the ship in position while we take up the tow. It gives us, we've 1,200 horsepower on each thruster, so twice that at the front, 800 horsepower at the stern. And as far as holding the ship's position is concerned, close to the ship needing assistance, we have practically the best equipment for positioning.
And yet, despite the reliability of the engines, the danger is there, just a few yards away. It's January 18th, 2007, and the Napoli, whose hull is split, is beginning to pitch and toss dangerously. Several sailors from the Abbey are winched aboard the Napoli.
I admit that when I arrived on the Super Hornet, we were the first there. When I got up there, I saw the broken ship. My first reaction was to think, we're turning around, we're not staying here. Because we didn't know what to do. We could see that the ship was going to break up. There was a storm blowing, so it was risky being on board. However, we do one of those jobs where you have to try to find a way, try to do something. We're faced with the accident, so in this case, you have to try to find the least bad compromise in what you can do. As I always say, in this type of situation, it looks like a hopeless situation. We have to go for it and try to do something.
The situation is still very dangerous, despite having the ship in tow. Then the cable snaps. Finally, after battling for several hours, the Napoli ran aground on a beach in Cornwall, England. An operation of this type doesn't leave a happy memory for the French and English salvage crews.
The profession of salvager is a ruminant profession. It's like cows. That means that after each operation you think, what could we have done better? There's so much pressure at the moment of the operation that later you experience a little crisis of compensation. There's the funk, the retrospective fear that's always there, that comes. There's a load of things, and that, how can I put it? You don't get used to it. Sometimes every operation, it's the things that pile up. You don't get used to that. The only thing you learn with time is that it passes.
While waiting for the squall to pass in Brittany, we go to our Canadian Coast Guards, who are getting ready. Mireille has just touched down at the hovercraft base. The clearing of the ice on Lake Saint-Pierre will begin in a few minutes.
When the hovercraft breaks all those pieces of ice under the cushion, it looks like a puzzle, as there are thousands of pieces floating around in the ocean. If you join them into one piece, it would look like an ice cap. It's very beautiful to see. However, it makes for quite precarious conditions to monitor, because sometimes there are dangers. If there are big pieces of ice not sufficiently broken up, we report them and they go out and break them into smaller pieces. All the time you're at the controls of a hovercraft, you have to be aware of everything around you. The traffic, the ice, the winds, the people on the ice, because it sometimes happens that a ski-doo comes out to see what we're doing, which isn't a very good idea, but it happens. So you have to be aware of everything going on around you.
For hours, the crews of the hovercrafts work the 300 square kilometers of Lake Saint-Pierre. During these ice-clearing operations, the crew of the Wabanaki often make do with a quick lunch.
Oh, fine dining on board. On the bridge of a naval ship, you can have 12 officers. Captain, 3 second officers. When we're 6 for lunch here, we're really packed in. Can't play around. You don't talk to the captain and then... The captain has his cabin, his mess room. We don't have all that here.
But Lynn is still Captain Lynn.
Lynn's the captain and we know she's the captain.
And what sort of captain is Lynn? Is she strict?
She keeps me in line. No, she's a very human person. That's one of the most important things. Being a sailor is also being human too. It's the captain who decides. It's the captain who decides. But she's not next to God, especially when you don't believe in God.
Oui, on va prendre du fuel, parce qu'on va la rentrer dans le garage, la cocotte. Ah, pas vrai, la cocotte rentre à soir? Ouais. Bon, OK, moi je suis pas parti de là, puis j'attends quand même. De toute façon, je vais t'appeler d'avance parce que
After 20 years' service, the old Wabanaki has undertaken its last mission on the ice of the St. Lawrence. There's a little tug of the heartstrings this evening for Captain Lynn White.
It's my first hovercraft. I cut my teeth aboard. So for sure it's going to be a little painful to see her go. It's a machine that's quite old, but it's a good workhorse, and then, with a little bit of maintenance, it will serve for a few more years, I'm sure.
In a few weeks, the Wabanaki will leave the St. Lawrence River for a far destination. With a new crew, it will continue its rescue missions and end its days in the swamps of the Indian Ocean. We set course for South Korea. The Blue Marlin is about to accomplish its mission. Submerging the vessel has taken 13 hours.
For now, vessel has weight of 120,000 tons, and for complete ballasting, when we reach our drafts, what required, we need another 10,000 tons. If we go straight, filling it with our pumps, it required 1 hour to the final condition.
Yuri is now aboard the rig. He's the one who will give the green light. Tension is at its height.
Let's go, let's go! Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kim, and good luck for towing.
It's mission accomplished for the crew of the Blue Marlin. This time the operation has gone smoothly.
Takes maybe one day not to sleep well yet, to see it. Sometimes you're dreaming about it, sometimes you're dreaming after that.
And there is a lot of emotion for you, huh?
Yeah, right now, sorry. Just released. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, enough.
So it's off the coast of South Korea that our voyage to the land of excess comes to an end. The sailors we've met on these exceptional boats are like modern-day heroes. Their secret? A cool head, a little courage, and above all, a great deal of humility.